All right, cool. Well, thanks for stopping by. This is super loose, so we are back with another episode of Cool Down. So these originated with the idea of us at the track, where we would obviously drift all day, and then while the cars were cooling down, we were like, man, there's some cool people around. Let's just go do an interview and like say what's up, right? So
exactly.
Now we're here at the Print House. So welcome to 144's Print House and Race Studio. We've got Kyle from VP Racing Fuels here. And yeah, literally you just stopped by to say what's up, but I threw you on camera and I thought we would just do a quick little interview and say what's up and ask some questions maybe from an outside perspective, but welcome.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Nate. Like Nate said, I'm here for just in the area. I figured I'd stop on in, and he said, you want to jump on a YouTube thing? Sure. Why not? So we're here. I'm Kyle. I'm with VP Racing Fuels. I'm the sales rep for the Texas region of the United States. Includes Oklahoma, Louisiana, just kind of the southern central area of the United States. So I've been working with Nate here since about 2018, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so he's been, we met early on in my career over there at VP, and he's been running all of our products for many years now. So I think we're going to try to dive into some stuff here and, you know, kind of see what we got here for Nate. So.
Yeah, I'm used to seeing Kyle either at Supercross or the drift events. So we haven't really got to sit down and chat in some years, but tell me about your beginnings at VP. Like, how long have you been with the company?
So I started in 2018. I was actually marketing. I did video work for the company. I did all the video work, the photos, anything, any lifestyle shots. Nate actually helped us out with some lifestyle shots for, what was it for?
That's
brake
right.
fluid or
That's
oils? Right. Yeah. And we ended up using them for a lot of print ads and stuff like that. So I used to do a lot of the digital side of the behind the scenes stuff for VP Racing, essentially. So, so I've been there for 5 years. Was in marketing for a little while, and then I ended up coming into sales. And I've been in sales now since at the end of 21, essentially, like October of 2021. So I've always been real technical. You know, I'm a gearhead, just like this guy right here. So. I don't drift like he does, but I am a gearhead, and it helps with the sales aspect, knowing all the things that I do and helping people out and choosing the right products. So
yeah, definitely. And I was trying to think too, like aside from kind of the, let's call it technical side of VP, before we dive into that, I should say, like, tell me a little bit about what in the current mindset is your favorite part of your job. Like, I know you're traveling a lot. Yeah. I know you're out at the races. I know you're a direct contact to athletes. Any highlights for you or anything?
So when I first started, I was like, oh, this is cool. Like, I'm getting to meet people that I've seen on TV for years and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, it's still really awesome, but you know.
You're getting jaded.
I'm not. I promise. It's, you know, it's just like when you see that phone ring, it's like, what do they want now? Oh, I'm just kidding.
But maybe you're mentioning that like you're just getting used to being in that crowd now.
Correct.
So these are your friends. These are your people.
These are my friends. I know these people well. I really enjoy that aspect of the job, being able to do what I love, which is racing, motorsports, you know, cars, anything related to with an engine. You know, that is what I enjoy doing every day. So, and traveling and going to race events like TX2K, LS Fest, going to drift events and stuff like that. That's just a real good perk to the job. So.
Do you usually know your like schedule for the year, or are you guys kind of flying by like this weekend we're going to do that, maybe next weekend we're going to do that?
It varies from region to region. Obviously, with myself, I tend to plan a couple months out in advance. You know, for LS Fest, I was looking at it back at the end of the year in 2022. So obviously every year for SEMA and PRI, we're obviously going to those every year. So that's always on the map annually. So, but in terms of events, you know, stuff can come up. I might know 2 weeks out. My boss might tell me, hey, you're going to go to, like, the reason why I'm in Dallas right now is that, or close to it, is that I'm going to an American Flat Track event. And we have a relationship with AMA Pro Racing, and so I'm going to that tomorrow, actually, and I'll be out there just to show our face at the race event that's local by.
That's really cool. Yeah, I know sometimes like people have it all planned out and they know exactly where they're going, or sometimes people are like, man, I just get sent left and right, and you know, so it's always interesting to kind of get the background on that.
There you go.
Well, yeah, I'm trying to think of two before we dive into specifics on products, but I do want to talk about fuel. I'd love to talk about like gear oils. But before that, is there any one event that you love? Like, is there any one particular moment of the year that you look forward to other than the conventions?
Yeah. So obviously SEMA and PRI, like I said, are big highlights of the year. Those are probably our biggest trade shows for the entire company,
Yeah.
as a matter of fact. So not just for this region or myself, but for everybody. So in terms of an event though, we did TX2K for the first time this year over in Houston. And unfortunately, they are ripping out Houston Raceway and they are moving it to Texas Motorplex up here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So I had a lot of fun at that event. Did a lot of good sales out there. That is my crowd of people. I understand them well. It's street car stuff. You say street car, it's like 1,000+ horsepower stuff. So,
Right.
But that is a really fun event for me. LS Fest was fun last year. This is our second year doing that up in Texas, obviously, because this is their second year doing it with Holly as well at the Motor Speedway. So I'd have to say those two events, LS Fest and 2K, are probably my two favorite events right now off the bat. So
Right on. That's really cool. Yeah, I know as a driver, there's certain events where I'm just like, man, this one, like Laguna Seca for us this year with Grid Life, like, you kind of get those bucket list moments where some years can kind of feel like, okay, I'm headed to the skid pad and, a little bit more normal, if you will. So it's always cool to hear like where people love to be.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, let's try to dive into some, let's call it like advice for maybe a upcoming driver, whether it be picking fuel or gear oil. Like, let's go fuel specific. Like, if I am, let's use myself for example, if I'm going to put a, V8 in a car and me and Dad want to go drift a ton, like, teach us a little bit about why would I run leaded versus unleaded, ethanol versus where would you start and guide people into the correct like fuel?
So I'm going to start out, obviously a lot of drift guys, they're getting import cars, like S14s or, maybe 240s or whatever. A lot of the go-to motors are the LS, and that's a very good thing that I know. In terms of fuel, you always want to look at, you're going to have different factors here. You're going to have compression ratio, you're going to have are you running turbos? Are you running a supercharger? Are you running? Are you trying to make a specific power output? Or obviously drifting stuff, you're hanging RPMs up for an extended period of time, and you are just like destroying the oil. I mean, not destroying it, but you're working it pretty good. So that's all stuff to consider when you're thinking of fuel. So for LS stuff though, if you're running high compression, high compression for an LS is, anything north of 12 in my mind. So a lot of you guys did do that. And, I've seen 13 to 1. I've seen 14 to 1 in some instances on LS engines. When you start getting to that compression territory, you need to start looking at a higher octane fuel. So, and guys that run nitrous too, that's also, I've seen guys do that in drifting as well. And, with the kind of stuff that you guys play around with. So anything in that type of compression territory where you have high cylinder pressures with turbos and superchargers, you need to run it over 100 octane for sure. For twin turbo applications on LSs, you want to be running like, I've seen guys run Q16, I've seen C16, I've seen VP110, but the most popular option obviously is ethanol, because ethanol pulls heat out of the intake charge and it drops the charge temperatures of the engine. So you don't have to rely on the intercooler as much, or an air to water deal, or an air to air, whatever you guys got. That ethanol is obviously going to help pull that latent heat of vaporization with the ethanol is what's helping that out.
I see.
So
the vapor of the ethanol is what cools the cylinder wall?
So the ethanol has, it's got a chemical property to it that actually extracts heat out of the air. So turbos, when you make boost, they make heat. And anytime you compress air, you make heat. When you introduce ethanol, it actually extracts heat. So extracting that heat, as you guys know, anybody in the car world, if you can get colder air into your motor, it makes more power. That's why you usually see ethanol applications, E85 applications or flex fuel applications, they make more power. Now, with that being said, with ethanol stuff, you're going to be running more fuel flow. You have to run about 30% more ethanol than gas. So if you're running like an MS109, which is a great fuel for what you guys do as well, you'd have to you'd have to make sure your fuel pump and your injectors are capable of running ethanol and to be able to handle that amount of fuel flow. So
we're out here to learn. You know what I mean? We're out here to learn. But that's good. That's good to know, you know? Like, I feel like as an entry level, like, dude wanting to know, it's like cool to hear that stuff. So the fuel I'm using can cool my motor. That's cool.
Exactly.
Right? That's cool to know.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, let's dive into some like gear oil, right?
Yeah.
Like, tell us about how would I choose my gear oil, whether it be in my transmission or in my rear end. Like, what am I looking to try to gain in performance, or how do you choose that, right?
So gear oil, if you guys don't know this, VP is actually making oils now. We've got gear oils, we've got engine oils, we got full synthetic stuff, like top of the line.
I gotta pause you right there too. Yeah, for everybody listening, like, just remember, from my brake fluid to my gearbox to the rear end to the fuel, it's all VP fluids. To Adrian wiping down the car.
Yes.
So yeah, like, Kyle's outfitted us with every single drop of fluid in the car is VP, which was new as of like 2 years ago. You know,
it's not old.
I
It's
used
not
to be
old at
on
all.
like
Yeah.
Lucas's gear oil, but your fuel, and like, you know, we were mixing things up there. So it's really nice to have that one home, that one rep that can basically walk you through all of this stuff. So anyways, we're here to learn.
No, you're good.
Back to gear oil.
No, so gear oil, you know, a lot of people don't know this. You know, gear oil is obviously there, and I say oil, I'm just going to say oil. Oil is there to help lubricate parts and keep parts moving. And, you know, metal on metal contact, you don't want that. When you have oil, you're supposed to be able to keep stuff rotating and moving fluidly. One thing people don't understand about oils is that they actually help cool down components, and they actually help make horsepower. That's our saying. Our thing is making power. I don't have the shirt on that usually says it. I have a couple polo shirts that say that.
He thought he had it on.
I thought I had it on. I actually looked down. You guys probably saw that. So our lubricants manager, actually, he was tasked with coming up with this with product, and we've actually seen horsepower gains versus top-end competitors. You guys know who those competitors are in the oil space. I don't need to say who those are, but oil actually helps make horsepower.
But is this like the resistance in between the components?
Correct.
Like, how is that?
It's the chemical makeup of the oil, the amount of phosphorus, the amount of zinc, the amount of polymers within the oil. If you start talking about Group 4 and Group 5 synthetic base stocks for oils and whatnot. I'm mainly speaking on behalf of the engine, but this applies to gear oils as well.
Like our GL5s.
The GL5s and stuff like that. And, you know, GL4 stuff is, you know, it's more for older applications. Nowadays, anything limited slip or torsion, helical style, limited slip differentials are going to run a GL5, whether that's full synthetic or an LS style oil.
And then I know too, in like the pro class, obviously things get a little like bougie, right? Where we change and we go through and like service our oils often. But what is the life of a transmission on a GL5? Like, is it every race? Is it every,
Well, it depends on how you guys drive.
Well,
it,
that's
man.
true. Yeah. Very true. I'm sure the drifting, like at a grid life, 2 full days of full throttle. But the concept here is that the oil heats up and then also breaks down and thins out, not allowing it to last as long.
Correct. So like I said, we've formulated our stuff to handle that well. We've got a lot of testimonials. You know, obviously outside of the drifting world, we've run in the off-road world out in Baja and Score and all that. And we've got testimonials with, Rob McCachran, where he had no oil pressure for about 30 seconds. And that pro-grade oil that you guys run saved his motor. They actually tore it down. The main bearings were all intact. The rod bearings were all there. They thought the engine was going to be wasted.
Wow.
And the way we've got it formulated with the gentleman that actually did that for us, he works with us, or works at VP Racing. He did a very good job coming up with that formula, and it saved. And I've got guys in the dirt track world, dirt track racing, highest oil temperatures you'll ever see in any form of motorsports.
I bet
300 degrees all day long. Yeah, and you know I don't know what it is. You know they don't get in a straight line, so they're not cooling the radiators as hard. So they're going to see high oil temperatures, and we've had a lot of testimonials with that as well.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
that's really cool. So for the average kid going to a normal drift event, maybe we could recommend 1 to 2 to 3 events out of a solid oil change?
So something, like I would, once you get into a groove, you're going to start to feel like, hey, just to be safe, you want to change every 1 to 2, maybe 3 events, depending upon how meticulous you're going to be with the engine in the car. So, I've got guys, that change an oil every pass sometimes at a drag strip. So it really going to be your opinion, when you start figuring this stuff out. So I won't be able to tell you exactly. So you just got to feel it out.
Right.
So,
and then on your oil pressures, as the oil thins itself, do you think you notice that physically when you're looking at your dash and display, or is it not that? Technical, but you just need to kind of monitor, obviously, your oil filters?
I would monitor with oil filters. Obviously, one thing I do, and I know a lot of racers do, is you cut your oil filters open after a race or after an event or something like that. You checking the pleats between there, making sure there's no metal particles in there. Oil pressure, though, it can vary. You might be at 45 psi at some RPM, and the next run at the same RPM, you might be at 43 psi. It's minuscule.
Right. But it's a sign. You could kind of pay attention to that and also like read your car, right?
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, I want to transition into the Stay Frosty.
Okay.
I want to transition into this, guys. So, at the track, obviously we can run like water and water wetter and certain like radiator solutions. But there is a Stay Frosty that we use, and we try our best to put like the whole radiator system of Stay Frosty. Mm-hmm. And dude, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Like my car with a nice radiator like struggles to even warm up.
Yeah.
So I have to keep my fans off for a certain amount of time. Yeah,
That's a good thing.
It's been a blessing. So I know a buddy of mine, Max First, he came to the shop and he was in need of some radiator fluid, right? So I just like, use this. And he was like, we went to Fuel Fest together and he was like, holy, like
it did amazing.
Yeah. So then he ordered some, right? So
awesome.
But yeah, tell me about it. Like what makes that solution so rad, right?
So Stay Frosty is an interesting chemical. It's a coolant. A lot of people ask me, hey, do you mix it with your coolant? No, you drain everything out. Your radiator, your block, everything. This is your coolant. Now, it has the same properties as water. This particular one is our race ready one. We have two. There's a high performance one and there's the race ready. The high performance one is set up more for a street car where it will actually have freeze protection down to about 0 degrees. This one will freeze like water at 32 degrees. However, the cooling capabilities of this particular product are far greater than water and glycol and any other thing we've seen on the market. The whole purpose of this goes back to what I said earlier with the ethanol, and our whole thing is making power, and this helps make power, believe it or not, a coolant. You're thinking, how is that possible? Coolant, when you can keep an engine cool, it creates a denser air charge within the cylinder itself. So when that intake valve opens and you're drawing in air and that engine is cooler with this product versus water, that intake density is it's more dense.
Yes.
So when you do that, obviously with ethanol, making more power there, you're going to make more horsepower. So the way this product works is that it actually extracts heat out of the metals in the engine block, whether that's iron or aluminum. It actually helps extract those better as like a heat sink, for example, and it transfers them back to the heat exchanger source, the radiator, and in turn, that's how you make more horsepower.
That's awesome. And a few like don't do's, but also if I was at the track and I just needed to throw some in, I can mix it with water?
You can, if you're in a pinch scenario where you're like, hey, we're going next round, just all we got's water. Just do it. You're not going to hurt the motor.
It'll just dilute it a bit.
It might be a little down, but like I said, it's going to be a minuscule measurement.
Yep.
So.
And then for everybody wondering, when you go to the drift tracks and they're like, water wetter only and water, this is like a track approved product?
It is. And cool. I've actually had some people ask me that. At 2K though, they were very against it, and I explained everything to them. But hopefully next year, years to come, that we'll get it on there.
Here's the recipe from the lab, right?
IMSA runs it at all their tracks. That's Road Atlanta, Sebring, you name it. Those are famous racetracks, and they allow these cars to run this fluid out on that track out there.
Yeah.
So
awesome. Well, should we dive into some kind of like sponsorship type talk, or do we want to? Is any other fluids you want to try to tackle?
This is a great one. I'll end off on this one for the products. So this is Octanium unleaded. If you don't know what this is by now, you should. This is a great product. You can actually pick it up at AutoZone or O'Reilly or anything like that. This is for the guy that's got a LS car or just a stock car, or your BRZ or whatever you got, and you want to go to the track or you want to go to a drift event on the weekend, this stuff will help with your octane if you want to spice up the tune. So this will treat 10 gallons, this bottle right here. It will increase your octane up to 7 numbers. So if you have a state where you've got 93 octane pump gas, this will theoretically, if you mix it correctly, will bring your octane level to about 100.
Gotcha.
So you can increase timing, you can increase RPM. It won't knock as much if you try to throw more boost at it if you got a turbocharged application. This will help you make more power. We've done dyno tests with this. I personally used it on my truck when we first started getting marketing out on this product, and it does make power. And in a naturally aspirated application, it made 16 more horsepower and 30 foot-pounds more of torque than stock.
I seen Adrian throwing that in his Corvette.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, it'd be fun for a track event with a Corvette. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's cool. Yeah, so on the product side, like obviously Kyle just jumped in here, so I wanted to give him some shout outs, obviously to VP. But aside from that, like obviously you guys got to go check these products out. But I wanted to jump into what I usually like to do, which is like value to younger kids, value to kids coming up in the industry. And, let's imagine we're at SEMA or we're kind of in those marketplaces where kids are pitching things to you guys. Any sort of, back end on VP as far as what you guys look for in athletes or your sponsorship programs? Like, what's a good way for someone to come say hi and introduce themselves to you guys?
Yeah, so like I said, I did the marketing side, and I dealt with a lot of sponsorship stuff when I first started, so I learned that early on. With me being on the sales side, I still see it a lot. It's more pronounced in the marketing side though. So if you try to get in contact with somebody at VP, I would say either side, either sales or marketing, will eventually get you there. We like to look at return and value. So obviously starting off, some people might not have as much to claim for themselves as Nate here, for example. So,
Oh, he's too nice.
There we go. So having value to us, saying, hey, what can you bring to the table for VP? What's your follower count look like? What's, have you won races in the past? Have you won events, drift events, whatever that may be?
I really like that take on it too. And that's where VP for me was always like nostalgic, and it was a brand that I believed cared about racing. I know a lot of times in our partnerships, it's like, is your YouTube doing a thing and is your Instagram doing a thing? And in the drift world, winning races is like third or fourth, right? So like, you can have championships and then there's still kids getting really good deals going on. So it is cool to hear that VP cares about winning races.
Correct. And having that, like I said, having the claim there for, hey, here's what you've done, and helping get us info out on products, stuff like this. Can you push it on social media for us? Nate did that for us really well. He helped. He gave us a lot of photos, like I said at the beginning of this conversation, that we could use for lifestyle shots. And I believe we did some videos in the past before as well. So doing stuff like that, that's what's going to get our attention. I don't have that decision-making process like I used to, but I can tell you, being on that side and knowing what they look for, I'm giving you guys a hint into how we do. I will say this though, and this is just, I'm laying this out on the table. We tend to not try to do any sort of monetary sponsorship. It's usually product. So, and that's going to help with your, whatever you're doing, whether it's fuel or coolants or oils or, so that is something to look for and to just kind of work towards if you're going to try to reach out to us for any sort of sponsorship.
So. And I try to teach a lot of kids that I mentor, just like, so then go add how much fuel do you need, your oil changes, your coolant, your brake fluid, and like what would that cost be, whether it's a monthly, retainer for you for your racing or a yearly retainer for your racing. And then come correct to VP and explain to them how many units you need and what you can do for them, whether it be photo, video, social plugs, winning races. Maybe we could talk about, little bonuses for winning races. But, those type of things you can work in, but you really are offering a service to your partner, right? So you guys got to remember that, as far as VP isn't just giving Nate free product just for Nate to be Nate. He really does need to return a service at some level.
Correct.
And that's just important for the industry to keep kind of hearing. at least something I want to keep buzzing in their ears, right? It's just how partnerships work. How do you get sponsored? When you get sponsored, how do you grow with someone, you know? So those type of things seem to be a lot of questions I get with my audience. So.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, we just dived into a few of these products. Nate's got a couple more back here, and this is just like dipping your foot in the water with what we've got. You know, we've got detailing products. We've got some power wash stuff that you can use for dirt bikes if you got dirt bike people out there, or even RC cars. There's a less concentrated formula for it. You know, brake fluid and, you know, gear oils. But like I said, Nate's really good about getting us out there for that kind of stuff. So
look at you now. You just came through to say hi. And
I did, and
we're
I'm
making
doing a
content.
YouTube video. So,
but yeah, no, thanks for coming by. We'll keep it short. I know you're on your way, but just wanted to give you guys some insight into VP Racing Fuels and what they got going on, and another episode of Cool Down right here.
Awesome, appreciate it, Nate.
Thank you,
sir.
Kyle.
Yes, sir. All right.